So Coach, as we talk to players, the one thing they mentioned about how different your scheme is from what the previous OCs ran is how much is on the center pre-snap. Can you just expand on that, on how much responsibility is on the center in this offense?
Yeah, there's certainly a lot. I think we constantly talk about winning the pre-snap, from IDing the run game to the pass game and protections. I think it's a balance, right? In my opinion, if we can take some things off the quarterback, get him locked into what he needs to be looking at, and we got smart guys up front that can really help him.
Why is it important, in your opinion, to take some stuff off the quarterback?
Yeah, I think it's just to allow him to play fast. I think certainly for TG is a guy that he's kind of in that phase where you're early on, you're just kind of playing fast, then you'll learn everything and it can slow you down at some point. But I just think we keep him involved, we get it started. If it's a situation where he does need to do something to change it, he can do that. But we've just found over the years that's about 10% of the time.
You are Taylen Green's third OC in the last 7 months. Does it feel like maybe you're thinking, I don't know if we want to put this much on him yet, because it might have been a whirlwind? How do you factor in how different is it being a dude's third OC in 7 months? Is there anything that comes with that for you?
Not as much. I mean, I think he's a really, really sharp kid. I got to be honest with you. A lot of this philosophically for us as coaches, you go all over the country. When I was my year in Atlanta, I was with an MVP. And to be honest with you, there's just some things that I learned from him that he wanted to be involved in and things he didn't want to be involved in. And I thought it allowed him to play at a very, very fast level. And I feel like I've taken that with me through my career.
What has impressed you most about Taylen? Now you've been able to work with him 7, 8 practices.
Yeah, he's extremely coachable. His leadership qualities are through the charts. He's just the guy in the whole organization that when he walks in, regardless of how your day's going, it just gets better. And I think there's, you talk arm talent, you talk elusiveness, athleticism, all those things, but the guys that are really special are those guys, man, that from a leadership standpoint can make the guys around them better.
I know you don't have your full complement of players due to injuries and things, but do you feel like halfway in that your vision for this offense and what you were wanting to implement here, you think is you got a lot of pieces to make it work?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I feel the number one thing for me is a simplification process. I think for us to really lock into, I think when we're doing a good job, the things that we're running, the schemes that we're doing in spring will show up in the season, and so I feel good about that, the volume that we've had in, how the guys have handled that. A lot of room for improvement, as you guys know, but it's been great for a lot of these guys to get out there, get their feet wet, and we think a lot of positives are coming out of it.
You mentioned the time in Atlanta. Can you expand? I mean, you say Matt Ryan, and him and Taylen don't seem like the same quarterback at all. What similarities do you see in terms of things you can run, or was it just something that made you successful there and you think will make you successful here?
No, I think the biggest thing, taken away from Matt, so many unbelievable things, but I think for him was in his preparation, he's probably one of the most prepared guys I've been around is where he wanted to focus that preparation. So some of the questions of, is the center making the ID? Is he not? Things of that nature. I just felt Matt wanted to keep the main thing and make sure he knew where he was putting his focus. And for me, that's stayed with me through the development of quarterbacks.
In terms of the running game, you've mentioned in the past that you learned a lot in your time in Atlanta because you were working in the Shanahan system. If you would, describe what a Shanahan system is and what you learned from that.
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind, whether it's run or pass, is trying to make everything look the same, and in that system, you see the mid-zone play being run, and every time there's a mid-zone being run, there's a keeper off of it, a play-action pass off of it. Again, a lot of similar things to I think what you guys saw with Coach Cutter here as of late. I also think of the pass game. If you see spray releases by a receiver to run an out route, they run an in cut, they run a post cut, and so I think it's the grouping of it as a whole, making it all look the same. Was probably my biggest takeaway from Atlanta.
What's something you want to see Taylen taking a step forward in during the spring camp?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for us, again, is he is such a talented athlete, but you get to this level, we're just constantly working on him pushing up in the pocket, certainly in the drop back pass game. Again, for his whole career, he's been able to escape and outrun people, but the art of playing in confined space, staying in the pocket is going to be what takes his game to the next level.
What is your philosophy or your vision, Bush, with Taylen on foot? Because you're right, it's such a valuable tool, but how often do you want him to go to it?
Yeah, I think use it, but don't abuse it. You know what I mean? you guys know the situation to have a player like that. His availability is his best ability, and we're going to need to use it 10 to 12 times a game. But if that's what we're hanging our hat on, he's going to be taking some shots. So we're developing him as a pro-style type quarterback. When there's opportunities to get the read game going and things like that, we'll do that. But he is plenty good enough of a thrower, his vision to be an elite guy.
What's the backup battle between Maddox and CJ looking like?
Yeah, really, really good, man. I mean, it's like so typical. Maddox, I mean, take him with all three of those guys. I mean, he is as calm as there is a player in the pocket that I've been around in a long time. I mean, we talk about that pocket awareness. He's a smooth, natural thrower, so I've been super pleased with him. And CJ's an interesting one, man, because he should still be like going to his high school prom right now. So I'm on him like about his command, and then I have to take a step back and go, the guy's probably like 17 years old. So. But he flashes. I mean, you guys have been out there. You've seen him. I mean, he's got elite arm talent. He can do some really special things, but we're just going to continue to push both those guys, and we're fortunate to have both those guys on the roster.
A lot of talent back at receiver, and again, I know injuries and sprain and things that play into it. But how's a lot of guys fighting for playing time? I think they probably deserve to play at receiver. How's that battle going? Yeah,
I've been super impressed. I don't know if there's necessarily just one guy that's completely separating himself, but I would say this, like Stephen Cobb and Shea, both those guys have really jumped out to me from a consistency standpoint. They're not super flashy. They do the dirty work. They're willing to block. They make tough catches on third downs. They got a great knack for the game. EMAC has been special on the outside. So those are three of the guys that have really jumped out to me, I think, as we go through the course of this. But it's a nice complementary group that to me has been one of the best position groups through spring.
Heard a couple weeks ago that you interviewed with Andy Reid and the Chiefs. What was that experience like? And obviously you didn't take it, but is it nice to be called by those guys and go do an interview?
Yeah, it was great. I never left Boise, to go talk to him, and it was something that really Coach Reid called Coach Avalos, and I think there was a connection through Missouri and Kansas City, but it was an honor to talk to him. Again, it was a Zoom call that I think was supposed to go for 30 minutes and went a little longer. But just, again, man, for a younger coach in this profession to have the opportunity to make that connection, it was one I'll never forget.
And talking to some guys about your coaching philosophy and your scheme, none of them say you're a spread guy, but they say that you use all 53 and whatever third, yards of the field, the width of the field. Why is that so important to you, and what does that do to the defense? How does that affect the defense?
Yeah, I think, you guys know my background, again, has been Boise roots for such a long time. And, certainly my last 3 years being around Eli Drinkwitz was a lot of learning for me from that standpoint. And I think the biggest thing is I think it gives a role to a certain type of player as well. If there's an undersized player that's great with the ball in his hand and he can spread the field horizontally, it allows you to do that. But I just think, it's the combination, just like in the pass game, of intermediate to long ball to the run game, of lateral plays to vertical plays that can make you dynamic.
And you've mentioned a lot about the tradition here. One thing that Boise State was known for was all its trick plays in the past. Hasn't been the case as much in the last couple of years. Is that something that maybe you want to get back to? You want to work a few more of those into your scheme?
Yeah, I think that's always something that, I just remember even when I played here, I think they got so much buzz of that. And the coaches were kind of like, I'm not sure if we really are carrying any more than anybody else, but the play callers did such a great job of doing some of those things and calling those plays. So I'd say we'd be about like everybody else, but I think it's something the kids enjoy.
Do you still keep in touch with Kellen Moore? Have you talked to him since he got his gig and you've had yours? And what's that been like with you and Kellen?
Yeah, I do. He's one of those guys in this profession for me that we very rarely talk about football. And that's huge, because certainly from the coordinator role that you're going through a lot of the similar things. But to have somebody that you can just call and check in on and have great dialogue back and forth is huge. So ton of respect for Kellen Kirby and his folks, and was able to actually see him in Dallas about 2-3 weeks ago.
What's the role of the tight end in your offense? And obviously you have, a very veteran, experienced guy in Riley, and then not a ton of proven, game experience behind him. So what do you envision for the tight ends this year?
Yeah, I think a tight end that can certainly set the edge on the perimeter on the mid-zone play, but also stretch the field vertically. is a game changer in any type of system where you utilize that tight end. So I think certainly Riley's a guy that's been in and out, but has shown tremendous upside. Matt's done a really outstanding job, and I think the group's coming along. So we'd always like to play with a tight end, and at times play with two, and so that group's going to be critical in our development.